The Awakening of the Hanged Man. I know that I hung on the windy tree 9 long nights, wounded by despair, dedicated to Odin. I sacrificed myself to myself on that tree, strange to everyone, from which the root he grows.
Mm. Very
Welcome,
interesting poem.
welcome to Luna and the
And the
Druid.
druid.
We're on episode 12 of The Fool's Journey, the journey to wisdom from 0 to 21. And we're past halfway last week. And yeah, today we're going to treat the card of the Hanged Man.
Oh.
You have your cards there, Luna.
I do indeed.
I have them too. Will you show some first?
Yes, I have more of a modern look at the hanged man, and Jan has more of a tradition. So let's start with a modern view and look at the hanged man. Um, First of all, one of my favorite ones from the Light Seer Tarot, which
Yeah.
represents the easiness of being in the process of changing our perspective.
Yep.
Another one very interesting here, which resonates with changing the perspective as well, is this one here when the girl is lying on the ceiling and looking at the world from a completely different point of view. And what's super interesting is both cards are represented by a female, and usually in the tarot the hangman is a male figure. Another one, which is a great example as well, is the new vision. It's the Osho Tarot. We can see a person emerging from the box, emerging from being closed here. I'm not sure if my camera is focusing properly. I don't think so. And last but not least, this one I particularly love because the scenery is in the water, and it represents technically a movement, but some sort of restriction is there because the hangman represents pause, represents um, a need to take a step back and look at things from a completely different angle.
Wow, that's lovely. Thank you so much. Yeah, and I like the last card where you said it's related. The hangman is underwater. The astrological or elemental attribution of this card is the element of water, so that's very appropriate. And it
Mm.
comes back in the cards that I brought today. And as usual, I'm doing a complete walk through the history of the tarot, where we have the Type One Marseille deck, where the hangman is hanged like a traitor, and he is oh, his hands are tied behind his back, but his fingers are waving over his shoulder, and he has a funny face, and yeah, well, he's definitely punished for something. He's punished for something. Then in the Rider Waite deck, we see the hangman evolves. It's not nearly punishing, but it's a journey. It's a journey like the one I told in the poem, where you hang yourself upside down in order to gain enlightenment. And this fella is
Mm.
surely on its way to enlightenment. Um, yeah, we have the hangman in the Toss Tarot, 40 years after the Rider Waite, where it's more of a process. He's very restricted in his movement and still learning, uh, yeah, to become enlightened and of course accepting his faith while so receiving enlightenment in the harshest of times when you're very restricted. A new deck I got this week, Robert Place's Tarot of the Sevenfold Mystery, goes more or less back to the original uh, Renaissance time, where we see a hangman from a bridge. It's Italian, and the theme is Italian, and it's called the Traitor. So there's a bit of redemption there. It's making up for the things you've done wrong,
Mm.
thievery, treason, and whatsoever. The most modern deck, it's a 2024 Maria Tarot. It's a Thoth clone where we especially also see the water element, so being immersed underwater, um, restricted, but gaining enlightenment, being enlightened, being uh, at ease with the situation, accepting the situation, and from there, uh, yeah, becoming better, becoming a better person.
What I
Interesting
think
card. It's a card
very
that I love very much. The the Hangman, because it has a deep and profound meaning, and it also has, I could we could say, it has more than just a simple single meaning. It has more meanings than just uh, being hanged for enlightenment or treason. I got some bullet points. We did the big thing, change of perspective, in our show earlier this week. We'll link to that. So gaining new perspective is something we don't do today. It might slip in the cracks occasionally, but we're going for this one's the value of pause and contemplation. That's what the lady up there does. She pauses and contemplates in the Light Seers Tarot. Letting go and surrender, same story. Sacrifice, leading to transformation. Sacrifice, a hard word, but we'll get to it. Finding peace in uncertainty. That's the card of the especially in the Rider Waite card, the Rider Waite Smith card. That's one that focuses on that. The importance of patience, and of course, the big thing, the big issue in life, spiritual enlightenment. So, Luna, can you shine some light on the first topic, the value of pause and contemplation?
of course, we live in such a fast-paced environment. Everything is almost instant. Uh, the environment is so fast that we've learned to not to wait, and we value actually what's available for us now, which sometimes can be completely against the rhythm of nature. For example, with social medias, it has changed us so much. We can't watch a movie anymore because with the very fast paced entertainment, we've lost our focus. We've lost our ability to just sit still and wait. And it's super important because the importance of inaction and not moving forward immediately, not acting on something immediately, but just giving it a thought, a second thought, even, and looking deeper, it's sometimes can be a key to achieving success or achieving a goal. But very often we tend to skip that step.
Yeah, yeah, and definitely points to a deep understanding. If you wait, if you let let the things that come to you work, sit, you get a deeper understanding. You get new thoughts. You get a grip. You get an idea of having grips of the situation. While normally we move, like you said, we move from one kick to another kick, and it brings us nothing. It brings us nothing. So there's a big win in the idea of pause and contemplate, sit still, wait, uh, think, gain new perspective. There it is again.
I have a good example. The other day, my neighbor was helping to fix my door because the wood got rotten and we had to get rid of a big chunk of the door and before I can get new door. So he's the type of person who acts before he thinks. Very Aries type of energy. And he put some pieces of wood together, put them in, and I said straight away, this won't work because I knew that there was no thought into it. He was just trying things and then putting the door onto it. And what happened? It didn't fit because there was no plan, because there was no different perspective. He didn't prepare for what was about to come. He was just acting like straight away, hammer, everything. And it was so funny to observe because I knew that he's going to fail with the project. And then obviously the emotions started to arise because he got angry that it didn't work, because it gave him more work to do, because he had to undo everything and start all over. And to me, it was a great example of how just a simple pause before and having to look around what I have in my hand and how can I approach this could change completely, because from a simple task it has become uh, way time consuming and way harder because he had to undo everything. So that was an interesting example for me of how not giving a thought into something, like not pausing even for a second, can change completely the direction of where we're going. Even it was just a simple example of a door.
Yeah, well, that's I'm someone who's prone to that idea as well. Sometimes an idea comes up, and I immediately come into action, and sometimes for the good because I know the idea is right, but sometimes it works totally against me, and things go wrong, and then I have, yeah, sometimes I say to myself, if you can't find the time to do it right in one go, how can you find the time to do it twice?
Mm, it's
Deep,
very
huh?
it's very true, absolutely.
Yeah,
And I've learned, because I am can be an impulsive person, so I've learned just that moment of let me think about it, let me see how I feel, because I barely use my mind. I love to tap into my body, into my intuition, and take wisdom and be guided by by my body, by my vessel. However, sometimes it's normal and natural. It is a part of human experience to just do and act. However, sometimes it may not bring the best result. Sometimes it will. It's all about feeling into the situation and knowing what's right.
there you have it.
Mhm.
Feeling into the situation, pause, contemplate, and sometimes even accept that you can't change the situation, and then you hang there and have to let go and surrender to a situation. Letting
Mhm.
go and surrender. So it's probably one of the hardest lessons in life, to learn to let go of control and surrender to a process. Surrender to a process. And it symbolizes a period of surrendering to the flow of life, trusting and letting go of specific outcomes or desires can lead to greater wisdom and
Mhm.
benefits on the long term.
Absolutely. How many times the deeper understanding of something emerged after we surrendered and let it go, after we stopped about thinking about something, we wanted to solve a problem and it didn't work, and when we decided, okay, I'll let it go, all of a sudden the answer, the brilliant idea comes to our mind.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And there's this big saying: uh, "Give me the power to change what I can change, and the wisdom to accept the things that I cannot change, and the smartness to know the difference between the two."
That's a good one.
So the things you have to let go, and sometimes there's things you cannot change, and you have to go with them. Yeah,
Absolutely. Very often, holding on to something will hurt us more than letting go. There is a great image I found long time ago, and I keep using it until these days, especially if I talk about if I talk with my clients about letting go. If they hold on to something very hurtful in a long term and even short term, it brings more pain than actually letting go. And there is a saying, if you love something or somebody, set it free, let it go. If it comes back, it's yours. If it doesn't come back, it was never yours in the first place.
that's so deep.
I love that, because
Yeah,
that is
yeah,
so
it
true.
was never yours in the first place. Well, we
Mm.
started off with nothing. We all have, and we still have most of it left.
What do you
And
mean
we
by
have,
that?
well, I started off with nothing and still have most of nothing left.
I don't get it.
think about it.
Moving
I,
on.
I started with a small bit and still have most of the small bit left, and now you start with nothing and still have most of it left. So you you know we we all start with nothing.
That is so. Yeah, I think I know. Oh well, but we can't know everything, and it's absolutely okay to not understand something and just let it go and move on to a next point.
That's it. That's the power. That's the power of the hangman. That's the power of the hangman and the lessons. Let go and surrender. Yeah, here's the big one. The third one: sacrifice leading to transformation.
Hmm.
That's of course, the that's the story of Odin, um, that hang from the world tree, and yeah, where he sacrificed himself to find the runes and to gain wisdom and understanding and enlightenment, and that's the big story of the hangman, um, where you sacrifice. Yeah, but where sacrifice leads to transformation, and of course, um, we have a lot of sacrifices in our lives. Sometimes we say a mother sacrifices a big part of her life to raising children, or a pet owner sacrifices a long time of their life to uh, to um, to raise a pet, but also a student who sacrifices 4, 6, 8, 12 years to gain wisdom and to gain their leaving cert, and finding that that their career takes a completely different direction, which happens too. So there's a big transformation when you put in the effort, put in the sacrifice your time, your money, your resources, in order to gain something. That's the story.
The word sacrifice, when I hear it, it brings so much pain. It brings such a negative
Yeah,
correlation to
yeah,
it. So I prefer to use the word trade off. In the Laws of Growth, there's 15 Laws of Growth, a book by John Maxwell. And in that book, he talks about the law of traders. In order to gain something, we have to trade off something else. And just like an example you've given earlier, um, very often mother will trade off their career in order to raise children. But unfortunately, it works the other way as well. And they will trade off. And in this particular example, I would use the word sacrifice, being with their family, being with children for the career, because they have to take care of the family. We live in the times where it's really hard for one person to take care of the family and to provide for the family. It used to be like this, that the male part, usually male part, were bringing the money to the household, and the woman was taking care, because it's a job, it's a full-time job to take care of the family, home, raise children.
yeah,
However, these modern times are slightly different. And then I would use the word sacrifice, to sacrifice the time with their children in order to have a secure life and good life, better life, I
yeah,
suppose.
yeah, yeah. It's trading off family pleasure, family luck, family togetherness, um, and you trade it off. You trade off the hours for more money and a bigger career and a bigger house, a bigger car, to impress uh, people you don't really even like, oftentimes, and that's such a big trade-off. That's a real sacrifice, actually. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah. And that's a sacrifice that in the end of your life, um, you probably will notice that you didn't do the right thing. You should have done differently, and you should have gone for passion. You should have gone for togetherness. You should have gone for fun. uh, and of course, the other way goes well. When you sacrifice everything to create a family and don't have a career and don't have fun, there should be. It's finding balance. It's finding balance in everything. That's the whole purpose of life.
And that's why Hangman hangs himself in order to see things from a different perspective and find that balance, find that enlightenment, find the right way to
Yep.
do this. Don't get me wrong. I'm not saying that having a career is bad or has negative consequences. No, it's all about the choice. If you feel it's right for you, then do it.
Yep.
However, it is important to look at the longer perspective as well, because time flies and we won't get back our time. Simple as it is.
Yeah, you can't get it back. So you
No,
have to accept that you can't get it back, and you have to accept that the moment you pick up your life, that's the moment where everything falls into place again. Yeah,
exactly. I value time the most. Time is precious because that's the only thing we can't control, we can't create, we can't manifest it. It's what it is. And if we lose it, it's not possible to gain it back.
it's gone. Yeah, that's it.
Mm.
So next topic is finding peace in uncertainty. Finding peace in uncertainty.
Mm.
That's, of course, we find represented in the Hangman of the Rider-Waite-Smith deck, where this one, uh, yeah, hangs upside down, knows that it's just a phase they're going through, and finds enlightenment, finds inner peace, although he's in a very precarious and uncomfortable position.
Yeah, well,
A state of
growth,
limbo.
yeah, growth happens in the darkness, and the darkness doesn't have to necessarily be the darkness as the dark place. Not at all. It's about going into a situation which pushes us through our limits, pushes us, gives us, um, forces us to how to explain that. I've lost the track of thoughts, to be honest with you. What I'm trying to say is, in it's important to center ourselves despite the hurricane outside. Just like in the eyes of a cyclone, in the eyes of a tornado, just inside of it, it's
Mhm.
a calm and peaceful place. And outside, there is everything flying, moving, changing. And change can be challenging. Change can be difficult to deal with, to thrive on it, because very often we like to hold on to things, and learning from the fool to just give ourselves that moment of peaceful, that moment of not looking at the surroundings, not paying attention that this is uncool, not paying attention that this is not something or a place where I don't want to be, can give us actually that little bit of light, that path forward, and the answer to what is the next step.
Yeah, yeah, and that also represented in this card, the traitor card, where the hangman is the traitor, and he finds retribution in hanging
Mm,
upside down, and the retribution meaning that when he is hung, and it was also in the old in the Middle Ages or in the Renaissance time, when you were hung as a traitor or a thief or whatever, and you showed acceptance, people would reward you for that by saying, okay, you've accepted your fate, you're standing strong in this place of adversity, you're finding peace in this horrible situation where you're in. Okay, kudos, well done. We relieve you from your punishment, we forget what has happened and give you a new chance. So there's also the combination of uh, the sacrifice as the punishment, and then finding the retribution by accepting your punishment and being with it. So very lovely and deep, deep meaning. You know? Yeah.
and how many times when we could, I like to call it, take a step back from the situation, from the uncertainty, and how often this leads to the sense of empowerment, sense of like inner freedom, because I could rise above something challenging. And that's a
We
beautiful
do.
aspect of Hangman.
Yeah, of course.
Mhm.
So
Moving on.
the next one, the importance of patience.
Mm,
And that's, of course, in a society that often values quick results and immediate gratification, the hangman counsels patience. The fool discovers that some things cannot be rushed and that patience is crucial for a certain process to unfold in their own time.
yes, we discussed it a little bit earlier before as well, with the going with the flow of nature. You can't push nature. Nature has its own rhythm and it's perfect. Everything, when we allow nature to take its course, everything will work out just the way it's supposed to. And these days, for example, there are farmers who will use chemicals to get the results, get the fruits earlier. And yes, you will have a tomato. Yes, it will look like a tomato. Yes, it will be red like a tomato. But does it have a taste of a tomato? No.
Not at all.
Does it have nutrients the tomato would normally have?
I
No,
would say not fully.
because exactly. They skip the natural process of the tomato being out in the sun and taking that lovely energy, taking its time to ripen. And yes, the fast paced environment we live today often puts pressure on us to do now, right now, or even immediately. But sometimes it is against the flow, it is against
Mhm.
the natural rhythm of things. And then when it clashes, it can become a difficult situation.
You're so right there, and it's very much like the natural flow of thing, but it's also very much related to consumerism.
Mm,
How many, and I look at you, our viewers as well. How many of you go out shopping, see something, oh, that's nice, the new thing I wanted, and buy it immediately, and coming home and say, okay, owning it is the end of the fun of it. It happens thousands and thousands of times every day. We just rush into impulse buying because we see the newest gadget, we see the newest thing, uh, which yesterday we didn't even know it existed, and tomorrow we come to the conclusion that it didn't exist because we didn't need it because we got here without it anyway. So what I always do is when I get the impulse of buying something, I park it. But
mm,
sometimes the idea of wanting to have it, especially with tarot decks and books, it remains. But sometimes it takes me a year to buy a certain book, and then now, when I buy it after a year, I'm quite sure that I want to have it, and
mhm,
I'm definitely sure that I will read it. And the new deck, I will use it to increase. So, but I've waited a year sometimes in order to buy a certain book, not because I couldn't afford it, but just for the reason that I wanted to make sure that my bookcase doesn't explode. And
mm,
my bookcase has been through some transformations. I probably sold more books in my life than I bought them right now, because otherwise I wouldn't have space in my house. But still, keep it easy, keep it cool. Uh, do be patient when you want to buy something. Think about it for 24 hours. Say at least 24 hours, maybe longer, and
mhm.
and
That's
it will save you a lot of money too.
yeah, that's a great advice. And I have something similar. I have a rule of 3 days. Sometimes when a situation is challenging, for example, with a person, uh, we may tend to react rather than respond and say things we normally wouldn't. We would say things in the heat of the emotions, in the heat of anger, and then we can regret acting, saying something, doing or not doing something, and pausing and just gaining a different perspective, sleeping on it can completely shift the energy and bring a different perspective And then instead of reacting, we can respond from the place of love and from the space of our own truth, rather than being motivated by rising emotions, by the amygdala response, the response of our body, which helps us to survive. And sometimes when somebody hurts us, the first reaction is to hurt them back, but it's not always a way. Obviously, it's if it's, for example, somebody attacks us, it's a different story. However, with words, we can hurt people, and words cannot be taken back. If you say something, it's there. And words can hurt people, and sometimes it's not necessary.
That's it. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Mhm. Last but
So,
not least,
yeah, and last but not least, actually, this is the point that more or less brings our whole week together, Luna. Spiritual
mm,
enlightenment. This is what we've been talking about all the time. Um, suspension, sacrifice, letting go, patience. We can achieve a higher state of consciousness. We can achieve a higher state of awareness and enlightenment. So we learn that sometimes it's through our most challenging experiences that we gain the deeper spiritual insight and spiritual growth.
yeah,
Yeah,
understanding,
I've said it.
seeing why a certain thing had to happen, why a certain situation was there. Absolutely.
Yeah. And that's so lovely. That's what I love about the card. So I love all the different facets of it. So it's very multifaceted. I think it's probably the most profound card in various angles to look at. But they all come together when you are past the hangman. They all come together as a grown up, as someone that takes responsibility, someone that dares to open up their mind, to open up their mind for other opportunities, to look at things from a different way, to change perspective. And yeah, very wise and very deep. The
Why
hangman.
in the meditation we close our eyes to connect, to take a pause from the outside world and turn into the inner world and listen to the voice of the soul, which, if we allow it to whisper, will give us a different perspective, a wider perspective, because we are not just our body, we are energy, we are soul.
That's so deep, Luna. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Jan, and thank you to our viewers for being with us today on this journey through a beautiful hanged man.
Yeah. And if you liked the video, you could do us a great favor by subscribe to the channel, push the like button, follow us for new adventures of Luna and the Druid. We're signing off now. Hope to see you soon again. Bye
Bye.
bye. Bye bye.